Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Index Office Hours. Today is the 9th of May, and this is Index Office Hours 106. If this is your first time attending Index Office Hours, this is the town square for graph ecosystem participants to come together and to discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. We love participation. This is a conversation, so by that token, at certain parts of today's conversation, please do participate via voice or text. If you're having trouble unmuting your mic, let me know and I will try to get you sorted out. This is going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube, so please bear that in mind. And with that, let's get into today's agenda. Opening remarks, we're going to kick off with a 𝗨𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧 episode shout out. It's 115, and that's with 𝗨𝗀𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧. And he is the co-founder of Float Capital. For those of you who don't know, Float Capital is a peer-to-peer asset protocol offering leverage returns without over-collateralization and liquidations. And why this 𝗨𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗧 episode is interesting is because they launched what's known as Subgraph Uncrashable. And I won't go too much into detail because I'd rather leave it for you guys to go check out the episode. But it's interesting. And so please do check it out. I will link. Oh, fantastic. Links are already being shared. Thank you very much, Chris. Cool. With that, let's get into our next section, which is Repo Watch. And for that, I will hand over to Anna. Take it away.
Thank you, Abel, and hello, everyone. All right, so today on execution layer clients, we have had a new release for Firehouse Ethereum. This is release number 140. This release introduces Substream Protocol v2, which has changed from SF Substream v1 streams block to SF Substreams RPC v2 stream blocks for client-facing services. So this changes the way that the Substream clients are notified of chains reorganizations, and all Substream clients need to be upgraded to support this new protocol. Yeah, keep that in mind when upgrading. And Matthew is saying Firehouse Ethereum 141 coming soon to address issues found during MIPS, and that is awesome. Thank you for updating us. On Nethermind, we have had a major release. This is release number 1.18.0, and I'm just gonna link you guys with the release notes because it includes a significant memory usage reduction, and I think you need to visualize that, and there's a graph there. It basically shows that the memory reduction goes from reaching 14 gigabytes to now reaching a maximum of 9 gigabytes of usage. Here, a new experimental full pruning method has been added, which can be turned on via full pruning memory budget, MB, and then your actual memory budget. And internal testing shows a 2 to 4 reduction in pruning time with 4,000 megabytes. Basically, yes, please look at that graph to see the reduction in memory usage. But some other changes, so fixed edge case bugs during full pruning that could result in try exception error. And the stability of the client was also improved by enabling auto repair for the invalid best case calculation errors. In some setup, Nethermind used to require root permissions because of the current implementation. That's no longer the case. Issues related to missing total difficulty on archive nodes were also fixed. And another important one, this release can start the testing blocks on the Ethereum mainnet in just over an hour, and after about 4 hours, the full download, which includes both bodies and receipts, is completing, leading to a steady state and improved attestations. Also, no chain withdrawals have been merged. A new check for free disk space during node startup has been added. which means that by default now the node will shut down if available space is less than twice the shutdown threshold or half of the warning threshold if specified. There's a new flag for that, and this change is specifically provided to address cases when a node is hosted in an environment with automatic restarts, such as Docker Compose with restart policy. And the last update on this, a new option of publishing the metrics that can be gathered via .NET counters has been added. And to enable it, you just set metrics that counters enabled true. And there's a lot more in the changelog, but those were the ones that immediately jumped. Please let us know if you've tried this version and what your experience was. All right, moving on. We have had 2 new releases for Arbitrum Nitro. So we have had a full release, version 2.0.14, and this release adds support for offline pruning, support for it send raw transaction conditional, which is not yet enabled on mainnet, and fixes miscellaneous validator issues. And then also on Arbitrum Nitro, we have had an alpha release, so 2.0.15 alpha 1, and this release upgrades GET to version 1.11.2 and fixes an issue with it estimate gas, RPC gas cap, that was introduced in the previous version. All right, for consensus layer clients, on Nimbus, we have had a new release. This is release number 23.5.0, and again contains many changes, but what you need to know is that it is a medium urgency upgrade that addresses a critical issue which was introduced in version 23.4.0, and this issue was causing missed blocks proposals for users who were utilizing an external builder. So what was fixed? So Nimbus was submitting blocks with incorrect state root to the attached external builder. Nimbus was also skipping block proposals due to an inappropriate triggering of the slashing protection logic when an external builder was providing a block with insufficient value to be selected under the local block value boost mechanism. The trusted block root option was not visible in the trusted node sync, and now it is. Nimbus was also experiencing sporadic request timeouts when being connected to the execution client over HTTP, which was introducing risk for missed attestations. That was fixed, and the required traffic to the execution client was reduced by preventing the sending of the same block multiple times. All right. We also have on the graph stack a new release candidate for the major upcoming release 0.31.0. Here there have been a lot, again, really big change log. I will only specify some of the changes. So there have been a lot of improvements for Graphman prune. So running just Graphman prune will mark the subgraph for ongoing pruning, in addition to performing an initial pruning. To avoid ongoing pruning, use Graphman prune with the CLI option once. Subgraph syncing time metric, deployment sync seconds, now stops updating once the subgraph has been synced. The subgraph error message, store error, failed to remove entities, is now more details and contain more useful information. It call logs now include the provider's string. A bug that would cause subgraphs to fail with the subgraph writer poisoned by previous error message has been fixed. A bug that would cause subgraph to fail with store error, no connection to the server message when database was connecting has been fixed. And another bug that would cause on-sync handlers on copied deployments to fail with a message subgraph instance failed to run, deployment not found, has also been synced. Also fixed faulty start block, selection logic, and substreams. Again, this is only a part of the changelog, and the full release will be really will contain significant changes as well. That is it for me this week. Please let us know in the chat if you've tried any of the releases or if you have any comments about them. Over to you, Juan.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, getting into Protocol Watch, we have, first of all, forum governance. We have GAP 46, which is the L2 transfer tools. This GAP has been renamed, as well as all of the references to migration, so that it's more clear and does not compete with our already current vocabulary, so to speak. So basically, migration will be everything that was migrating from hosted to network, and the transfer tools are what's going to be used as a kind of like vocabulary for everything that's going to be transferred from L1 to L2, so that there are no like I don't know if Nick is if he can't hear me. Can you all hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. That kind of like threw me off. Anyways, so basically transfer tools are going to be everything that's going to be used for L1 to L2, and migration is what we're going to be calling, or what we have been calling for a long time, from hosted to the network. This also applies to GAP 52, which is the timeline and requirements to increase rewards in L2. So everything that was previously called migration in that GAP is going to be called transferring or transfer tools. But also for GAP 52, there are some new changes to the GAP regarding some feedback from the community, mainly discussing in IOH before each of the increases to check that everything's going according to plan, adding a new requirement for that a third of the delegation is in L2 before we move from 50% to 95%. Also making the first 25% bump 1 week after deploying the transfer tools to give people some time to try them. And change the requirement for 90% of subgraphs having migrated or transferred, so to speak, to only count subgraphs that have query fees, which all of those have been some of the feedback that the community gave in that forum thread. So as always, if you have more feedback for the new timeline requirements to increase rewards in L2, please do tell them in the forum thread, which is the official way of basically contacting and giving feedback for this particular GAP and for all of the other ones too. Moving into forum research, we have a new core dev update for Messari for April and May 2023, as well as some updates to Streaming Fast May and April 2023 updates. For Streaming Fast May 2023, there was a question regarding what are the improvements to the GUI. So basically, the new graphical user interface or improvements to graphical user interface for substreams. And then for April 2023, there was some questions regarding the VMX. So basically, what is the VMX, as well as whether it's built from scratch or if it's using some other tools. Moving to contracts repository, there are a few open PRs regarding L2 migration renaming. So instead of calling it L2 migration, moving everything to the transfer word. So that's pretty much for both the staking and GNS migration tools, now renamed transfer tools, as well as changing query fee rebates mechanism to use exponential rebates. That's pretty much it, since we don't have any new network subgraph updates. So I'm going to hand it over to Abel now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the updates there from Reaper Watch and Protocol Watch. Thank you Anna, thank you, Juan. Cool. Well, now we move on to the next section of the call, and we are very fortunate to have Tomas with us, who's going to talk to us all about a JIP. So, Tomas, are you available and ready to speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Amazing. Take it away.
Yep, let me share my screen. Screen share. Okay, let me know if it's coming up.
Yes, we can see it.
Map, cool. Okay, yeah, this might look like a deja vu. We've talked about exponential query fee rebates already in previous IOH, and also in, I believe it was last week's core devs call. I have links to both of those presentations here and some other resources. The idea today is to go over kind of like what the upgrade path, the transition from one mechanism to the new one is going to look like. And I would skim over the first few slides that mostly cover things that we've already covered in previous calls. So if you're new to this topic and you want to catch up, resources here should be good. Okay, so again, this should be no surprise to anyone. We are proposing a change to the rebates mechanism in the graph protocol. Here is this slide kind of summarizes what we have today and where we want to go. Today, we are using a Kozlov-Douglas inspired mechanism to calculate the query fee rebates. It has a few disadvantages that we want to address with this upgrade. The main one being that it's overly complicated and inefficient. The way the mechanism works is that it's, in order to calculate the rebates, you have this dependency on network state variables, things like the stake that other indexers have on their allocations, the total amount of queries that they generated. So it makes it hard to calculate what rebates you're going to get. And it also has some inefficiencies. There is a large amount of query fees that get burnt, and like that's we can do better. So what we're proposing is an exponential-based mechanism, and the main, or at least to me, the most important thing is again that we remove this dependency on the network stake. So now the amount of rebates you're getting only depends on like your actions as an indexer, like how much stake do you have, how much queries you generated for a given graph. And that's things that you can, as an indexer, you can control, you can measure, you can take out the calculator and do a quick math, and you will be able to calculate the amounts. This also has the added benefit that not like the amount of queries that are burnt is a lot smaller. So here's a simple example. I think we went over this example in a previous call, but essentially if you generate as an indexer 100 GRT in query fees on a given subgraph where you're allocating 1000 GRT of stake, so here's the formula. It's an exponential with 2 parameters. I think, again, this shouldn't be new. And it's pretty simple math. You generate 100 GRT, and the calculation turns out you get 99.75 rebates. Right? And this is fairly simple to understand, fairly simple to calculate, and really simple to implement, right, with code. And that's one of the main things that I am happy about with this change. The current mechanism is, as I say, adds a lot of complexity into the protocol. The way Kozlov-Douglas works is like you have this two-step process, right? Where you first, when you close an allocation, you redeem a voucher. Those query fees get put into like a bucket, which we call the rebate pools. Then every other indexer does the same for a given epoch. And then after a certain period of time, like you are allowed to go back to that bucket and reclaim whatever corresponds to you using the 𝗨𝗂𝗧𝗪 formula. So this is a lot of complexity that gets erased from the protocol. It gets erased from the code. Like we don't need these buckets. We don't need rebate pools now. We don't need to complicate the allocation lifecycle, right? You have an allocation can be open, then you close it, then it's on a finalized state, then it's on a claim state. Like that's a lot of states to describe the allocation lifecycle, which we can get rid of. That's great, in my opinion. So on the right side, you see, again, the new mechanism proposes a single step redeeming or collecting of the query fees. Whenever you submit a transaction, you get back the tokens. That's much easier to wrap your head around. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is what we just talked about. We removed the rebate pools. That's great. That means we have instant rebates, single transaction rebating, which is great. We can also safely remove what we call the channel dispute epochs. This is a variable that defines the amount of time that needs to pass after you close an allocation and before you can claim, you can do this second step, right? That's currently set to 7 days. Since, again, we no longer have the rebate pools, these buckets, like we don't need any of this. So that's good. Okay, let's talk about some breaking changes or some things that are not going to work the same way that they are working today. The first one is the removal of the risk-taking flag. So currently, whenever you claim rebates from a rebate pool, there's this option that you can toggle that essentially will risk-take the amount you're getting if the flag is set to true, or it will transfer that amount to your address if the flag is set to false. What we're proposing now, like this change is somewhat not related to the original change to the exponential rebates, but it does make it easier, and I'll elaborate later. So what we propose now is to have the claim mechanism or the collect work in a similar way that the indexing rewards work, right? Where there is this rewards destination address, and if you have that, if that address is set to a value, then the rebates will automatically get restaked. Sorry, if you don't have that value set. If you do have that value set, then the rebates get transferred automatically. Like you don't need to specify what behavior you want. You just specify it by setting this parameter. So that's one of the changes, that things that won't work the same way that they do today. And the other one we've covered already is, again, this. We have a single transaction to get your query fees instead of 2 transactions separated by 7 days, or this period we call channel dispute epochs. Right, so here's the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to present, to talk about today. So far, I think all of what I've said so far we've covered in previous presentations or forums. If you want a bit more detail on that, go check the resources I listed. But now I want to focus a little bit on what the transition looks like, what the upgrade path looks like. So the first thing, or really the most important thing that we need to understand here, is that after we upgrade, the claim function on the staking contract, we will no longer be there. So after the upgrade, any funds that are stuck on a rebate pool are stuck there forever, right? Unless we upgrade the contract again and we re-add it, which I hope we don't have to do that. So that's the main thing, the main takeaway that I want to transmit to you here. So what does that mean in terms of like what actions are required from your end, right? The first thing I want to focus on is like what we call the unclaimed pools. I took this snapshot from our Dune analytics page. I think it was 2 weeks ago, or maybe last week. We have currently 43,000 rebate pools that are unclaimed. That means pools that where this 7-day period has passed, and they are up for claiming, but they have not been claimed. Now, if you look at the histogram on the lower side of the screen, can maybe understand why they have not been claimed. Pretty much all of them have a very small amount of GRT, right? If you do the math, on average, it comes out to 30 GRT that could be claimed per rebate pool. So that's probably the reason, like, it's more expensive to pay for the gas than whatever amount you're getting back. But if that's not the case, I encourage you to go and double check before the upgrade, because after the upgrade, if you forgot to claim a juicy rebate pool, then that's gone forever. Yeah, essentially it's close to 1 million GRT, but when you split it down to individual rebates pools, it's probably very little amount, and it's probably not worth to claim it. But please check this before the upgrade date. So if you can claim the rebates and it makes economic sense, do it. Okay, so that's these pools we just described are probably like months or years old. But I want to talk now about what happens on pools that are caught like in transition, right? Here on the left side, you can see on yellow, these are all the actions related to claiming rebates from a pool. You can see the allocation gets closed, the voucher gets redeemed. These two actions typically happen simultaneously. And then you have this 7-day period before you can do like the second step, which is claiming the rebates. And following this yellow example, if you do the claim like before this dash line here, I don't know if you can see it clearly, then you will get the rebates using the 𝗀-Douglas formula. If you go to the right side and look at the blue example, this is after the upgrade, right? You close an allocation, and then there is no period where you are subject to waiting for. You just redeem your query fees whenever you want, and those will be using the exponential rebates, right? The problem is the case that we have below in red. So what happens if you close your allocation, redeem the query fees, right? So they get deposited into the rebate pool. But then you need to wait 7 days in order for you to go and claim them. But the upgrade comes before that. So essentially, whenever you are allowed to go claim these fees, you cannot do it because the claim function no longer exists after the upgrade. So in that case, you would, as I mentioned before, you will lose the rebates, and that's the I guess the main thing we need to look out for. The main thing you want to avoid is for this scenario to happen. We cannot guarantee that it won't happen, but we can minimize it. And here's what we thought. So the main idea behind this is to reduce that 7-day period to 1 day, right? Essentially, if you only have a 1-day delay between that you need to wait before you're able to claim, then it's a lot easier to plan ahead and to know when to close an allocation, right? So if you look at here, what I called stage 2, right? It's this period that starts 1 day before the upgrade, right? If you close an allocation during this stage 2, then you will lose the rebates, and there's nothing we can do about it. Hopefully, this 1-day window is enough so that if you need to close an allocation during this period, like you can either close it a little bit before or wait half a day or a day and close it after. We cannot make this period less than a day. 1 day is the minimum that the protocol in the current state allows. So we are going with the minimum. We think that 1 day should be good enough to plan when to close an allocation and when to do these claims. But if there are any suggestions as to how to approach this problem, you're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, essentially the upgrade will look like this. I mean, stage 0, you can consider it's today, right? We have a 7-day window. So you close an allocation, you wait 7 days, you claim it. At some point, we will change this to 1 day, which is the first line here. And that marks like the start of stage 2. From then onwards, this 7-day period will be reduced to 1 day. So you close an allocation, the day after that you can claim. The next thing you need to look out for is, okay, when is the upgrade scheduled for? And then 1 day before that, make sure that you do not close an allocation. After the upgrade, you're free to close and redeem as you please. So yeah, in summary, or for this, the important thing here is to not close allocations during this stage 2. Again, the stage 2 is defined as the 1 day window before the upgrade, right? We don't have yet schedule for this. We are looking at late June, early July as the time frame where we wanted to do this. Of course, the first step would be to set this window to 1 day. That will come probably 1 week or 2 weeks before the upgrade. But any dates, we are going to announce them through the GIP post in the forum. So make sure you're checking that, and of course we will. Those are probably going to be covered here in a later IOH, that announcement. So yeah, the summary, I guess, is, again, the most important thing here is that after the upgrade, you will not be able to claim rebates from rebate pools. So if you have any claiming to do it before the upgrade. I mean, if it makes economical sense. And pay attention to this stage 2 freeze, this 1 day window where if you close an allocation, you will lose the rebates. And I think that's all I had. I don't know, I haven't kept up with the chat. I don't know if there's any questions.
Yes, there's been tons of questions. So
okay.
Yeah, you're welcome to go back and respond to some. Some of them have been answered. But...
anything with a red question mark emoji is a question.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you, Chris. Taking a step back, can you describe the rationale motivation behind having a rebate mechanism in the protocol? You mean having a rebate mechanism, or to moving to this mechanism, new mechanism? I guess the
No,
first one, right?
I mean kind of more holistically, like why do we even have rebates versus just settling vouchers, alone?
I mean, you could settle the vouchers totally off-chain. I don't know if that's where you're going. Like in the end, like this is the indexer is providing a service, right? And the consumer is paying for it. So yeah, you could make the point that it's not needed to go through like the gateway and the allocation exchange and the protocol itself.
Yeah, that's not so much what I'm getting at. I guess I'm, whether the mechanism is exponential rebates or Cobb-Douglas, there are certain like behaviors that the rebate mechanism is trying to incentivize, right? Like proportionate query versus indexer stake. I don't know if that's still one of the design objectives, but yeah, I was hoping you could share some of those for us.
Yes, I think that like the main motivation behind like having a mechanism, a rebate mechanism, is to ensure like a stake ratio. I think that's what we were calling it. I kind like I'm on the fence, but I think that, especially if you think on a decentralized gateway world, like how do you enforce? Like you need to provide a really good incentive for this mechanism to make a decentralized gateway be a part of this, right? Because why would they go through this process if they could settle payments off-chain and like pocket some of that query fees, instead of like that going to being burnt on the protocol? I think that's I don't know that we have that solved, or we have a very good like answer to this question now today. And I think that's going to be a very hot topic in the future when we like open the discussion around like decentralizing the gateway. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but I think it's a very good question. Okay. Have we looked at the potential gas savings in trimming down to one transaction? I haven't checked the numbers. I guess the biggest gas savings will come from moving to L2, obviously. So this upgrade should happen like right after the L2 migration. Sorry, not migration helpers. We renamed that the transfer tools, or I forgot the new term. But so essentially, like very soon after this is after the L2 like plan is completely rolled out, we will roll out this. So that will trump any gas savings that we will have by going from 2 to 1 transaction. Although that's obviously another saving, like, right? You're only paying like for 1 transaction. That means you're only paying for 1 base fee instead of 2. But I don't have specific numbers to share at the moment. With the simplification of allocation lifecycle, how does this affect query disputes? So this is a tricky question. Like it shouldn't affect query disputes at all. The way this parameter is defined, like the channel dispute epochs, it's a bit misleading because it might make you think that it's related to the arbitration system, when in reality it's completely unrelated. So today, the arbitration system flashes indexers' stake, right? The query fees go through a different channel and they can't be slashed like ever. They are not under risk of slashing. So the stake from an indexer is what gets slashed if there is a query dispute, and that's not changing, right? If a fisherman or someone presents a bad query result, they can open a query dispute, and that will go through the same arbitration mechanism we have now, which will experience no changes. That would mean that the indexer will get slashed on their stake, but the query fee collection and the rebate collection before the upgrade and after the upgrade is completely separate from the arbitration system. Isn't it already gone forever after? Oh, no, this doesn't have a question mark. Right, that's answered. Is there a way to identify the unclaimed claims by indexer? Yes. Probably using the subgraph. That's one way to do it. I don't know if the indexer software allows for it, but I think probably via the subgraph you should be able to get a list. I'll make a note and follow up on that. Maybe I can provide a query or something. Subgraph. I'm guessing the indexer software has a way to list the pools, but I'm not too familiar with it. So I don't think Board is on the call here. No, he would know, but okay, next question. Is there a timeline for these changes hitting testnet? Okay, I think I said late June, early July for the that's the target date we have in mind. That's like a soft date. So let's say end of May, probably we will have these changes in testnet. Yes, yesterday we started the audit. That's 2 weeks of audit. Like an additional week of any fixes that might come up, and then after that we can deploy to testnet. We will announce that on the forum post as well. Okay, Chris adds that you can see the configuration for rebate claiming indexer. Okay, thanks, Chris. Okay, I think that's all the questions. I don't know if I missed one, but yeah, unless there are any other last-minute questions, it's back to you, 𝗨𝗀𝗀.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, if you guys have any additional questions, please do shout. If not, there we go. I see Chris is typing. Yeah, well, that was the final section. So yeah, thank you so much, Thomas, for going through all of that. Obviously, there's a lot of changes in there and action items that people should be aware of. If you could do me a favor and post the presentation link in the chat, that would be fantastic. Just so people have access to it. Yeah, and then I will also post a link to the previous recording on IOH, which I think is not actually linked in the presentation. So there it is. I'll link it there. And yeah, thank you so much. Perfect. There it is. Thank you so much. Oh, I see Chris typing. I just want to give Chris a moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's thanking you, which is awesome.
I added the link, the missing link.
Perfect.
To the presentation.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Superstar. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Thomas. Really do appreciate you sharing all of this. We look forward to all of you joining again for the next edition of Index Office Hours. Again, another thank you, Thomas. And yeah, that wraps up today's Index Office Hours. Thanks everyone for joining.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.